Assalamualaikum and good day, my fellow students. This is Pn Emmawati, and I'm using this method of video teaching that is recorded to cover our third chapter, which is also our 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 chapters. Actually 5 chapters that we have already covered for this subject this sem. So if you refer to the syllabus, this is actually our third chapter, and the title of this chapter is Double Entry Principles, which is also known as a double entry system and balancing off. So those with accounting background, you might find this concept is familiar with you. In Malay, we call them as a system catatan bergu. And balancing off is to mention about the ledger accounts that we need to close, that we need to balance off, okay, every time, at the end of every month. So let's proceed with this chapter. So at this stage, you should have known the important terminologies of asset liabilities, equity, revenues, expenses, written in works, written outwards, drawing, sales, and purchases. So these are actually the fundamental accounting terminologies. The fundamental accounting terminologies that everybody need to already covered, that everybody need to already understand all those important concepts of all these terminologies. Actually, we have already covered these areas, where we have briefly discussed about assets, okay, inventories, how does drawings happen, how does written in words and outwards happen, okay, especially during the discussion on the topic of source of documents. Okay, so we have already looked at these areas. So if you find it still confusing, I think we have our book with all those detailed explanations. So it is better if you do more readings on these areas. Whatever it is, I choose to proceed with the most important areas of this chapter, which is double entry system. Double entry system, which is also known as a double entry principle, okay, system catatan bergu. This is actually a principal entry of accounting. So we need to master this understanding because we need to apply this concept in preparing our journal entries and ledger entries. So when we talk about journal entries, you might find it familiar with the format of a journal. We are going to look at this later, okay? And when we talk about ledger, it is more like a T account with debit and credit. And this double entry system is used to apply the dual effect of business transactions. So I would like to stress on this terminologies of dual effect. So the dual effect is actually the concept that talk about the principles, the rules that need us to open at least 2 accounts in every accounting entries we are making. So let's say, okay, briefly, for every business activities that we are dealing with, the principles is we must at least open 2 accounts. Dual means dual, okay, dual, okay. So for every business activities, we should open at least minimum 2 accounts. So if you have debited 1 account, the other account should be credited. Okay, 1 account debit, followed with another account credit. That is dual effect. You cannot debit both accounts, you cannot credit both accounts, or you cannot make any entries or no entries in any account. Itu yang paling teruk lah, langsung tabah catatan. Okay, so dual means one account debit, the other account is credit. So that is the fundamental principles of double entry system. So this is the fundamental practice of double entry. So it said that the entries of debit and credit. So when we talk about entries, we are talking about debit and credit. Debit is on your left and credit is on your right. Okay, left of account and right of account. Okay, so debit is on the left of account and credit is on the right of account. So the entries would depends on the movements. Sistem catatan itu, okay, sistem catatan bergu adalah bergantung kepada pergerakan-pergerakan. Movement tu doesn't mean that you have to run or to jump. Itu bukan maksud movement. Okay, in accounting, movements means the status of your accounts, either it is increasing or decreasing. That is the meaning of movement, increase or decrease. So we have already covered these areas, okay, about the increase or decrease of accounts. For example, if you have an asset, your asset is machine. So your asset, the machine, will increase if there is a purchase of new machine into your business. Awak membeli tambahan mesin dalam perniagaan, maka berlaku peningkatan dalam account mesin, increase in machine account. And for decrease, if you sell your machine as a second-hand product or as a second-hand machines, okay, so it will make your account to decrease. Ia menyebabkan account mesin awak berkurangan. Kenapa? Sebab awak telah menjual mesin. So that are some other examples. How does your account move? The movement is because of the increase or decrease of your accounts. Okay, so that is the brief explanation to give you idea the meanings of movement of accounts. Okay, let's discuss on how should we do the double entry system in accounting. So in order for you to apply double entry system in accounting, we need to go through these 3 steps or procedures. First, you need to identify the minimum 2 accounts that need to be open for every business activity. So this is what I meant by dual effect just now. Okay, kita kena mengenal pasti sekurang-kurangnya 2 account yang perlu kita buka bagi setiap aktiviti perniagaan. So this is the first thing that you need to do. And then the second step is you need to analyze the movement of increase or decrease of your accounts. Awak kena pasti. Okay, you have to make that thinking. Awak kena mengenal pasti, awak kena berfikir pergerakan akaun awak. Sama ada ia meningkat ataupun berkurangan. Okay, mula-mula awak kena pasti apakah dia 2 account tu. The 2 accounts that you need to open. Okay, and then the second step is you need to do the analysis on the movement of your account. Pergerakan dia, status dia, sama ada bertambah ataupun berkurangan. And the last step is you need to do the accounting entries based on the rules of double entry system. So after you have done these 2 steps, these 2 first steps, okay, only then you can do the double entry, you can do the accounting entries by applying the double entry system. Sama ada awak kena debitkan ataupun kreditkan, so you kena applykan dengan rules dalam double entry system. Okay, so these rules, these steps will be applied both in journal entries and ledger entries. Okay. So what is the rules of double entry? So these are actually the rules of double entry. So I have classified our accounts into 10 most important categories. So let's look at the first 4. So we have assets, liabilities, equity or capital, and drawings. So how should we read these diagrams? Okay, so this is actually, okay, let's look at the asset first. Okay, this table, okay, this table is actually representing your asset account. Okay, so you can see here, this is actually the version of T accounts here. So this is a big T here, T. Okay, so this is going to be the name of your asset account, and on your debit is here and your credit is here. Okay, debit belah kiri, credit belah kanan. So when there is an increase in asset, so you should debit your account. Asset meningkat, kita debitkan. And if there is a decrease in asset, we should credit the asset account. Asset berkurangan, credit. So this is actually what is the meaning of these pictures. Asset increase, debit. Asset decrease, credit. And then for liabilities, if your liabilities decrease, so debit your liabilities account. And if your liabilities increase, so we should credit the liabilities account. And then same goes to capital, equity. Equity decrease, debit. Equity increase, credit. Drawings increase, debit. Drawings decrease, credit. Sales will always increase. Sales cannot decrease. So this is why you don't have decrease for sales. Okay, penjualan sentiasa bertambah. Awak tak boleh kurangkan penjualan. Okay. And then purchases increase, debit. Return inwards increase, debit. Return outwards increase, credit. Yang rules ni memang awak kena hafal. Okay, dalam buku pun ada. And the balance to accounts are revenues. So if your revenues increase, so you should credit your revenues account. And if your expenses increase, so you should debit your expenses account. Alright, as I have told you earlier, we are applying this double entry system in preparing our journal entries and ledger entries. So, realizing process, proses-proses mencatatkan, membuat catatan journal, catatan journal. So, we are applying double entry principle. So you can refer to your book at page 71. And then for the ledger and posting, we are applying the double entry principles also, and the explanation is in your book at page 72. Oh, maybe. Okay, so this is the brief idea about the double entry system. So the most important part of our double entry system is actually here. Okay, the rules of double entry system. When your asset increase, debit. When your asset decrease, credit. And all those other account. So you might need to spend some time to relook at these diagrams, at these slides, and remember back what you have already learned during your secondary school. Okay, so actually I have made these small notes on this. I'm going to send off this one. Okay, so this is actually, Okay, so this is actually the WNT system that you can find in our slides. So I have compressed them in this table format. So again, okay, this is the principles that I have features it in different version of table. I hope you can read this out. Okay. Okay. So let's look on how should we do the double entry. So we are going to use this simple exercise. So this part. So we are going to cover all those 3 steps that we need to apply, that we need to practice in order for us to apply the double entry system in our accounting entries lah. So our discussion is based on this double entry system on your right, and what we have on the left is actually simple exercise on how should we go through all those 3 steps of double entry practice in journal and ledger. Okay, so usually in order for you to prepare the journal and ledger, you will be given a number of business activities. So this is actually a simpler version of business activities that I had. So I'm using this to remind you back on how should we apply the 3 steps of double entry. Alright. So let's start with the first 10 sections. But before that, let's look at the requirement of the exercise. Identify the entries accordingly with the rules of double entry system. Kenal pasti catatan-catatan berdasarkan kepada peraturan-peraturan catatan pergub. Okay, so I have this first 10 sections with answers. So the first 10 sections is started a business with cash at bank. Okay, so this is the business activities. Started a business with cash at bank. Apa yang berlaku adalah awak telah memulakan perniagaan dengan tunai di bank. So this is what is meant by number 1. Memulakan perniagaan dengan tunai di bank. So we know that if you start a business, you will start your business with capital. Bila awak memulakan perniagaan, awak akan memulakan perniagaan dengan modal. Tak ada tulis modal pun kat sini puan, memang tak ada. Tapi awak boleh fikir sendiri. Modal datang apabila awak memulakan perniagaan. So, awak boleh fikir, awak boleh tahu, oh ini adalah modal. Okay. So, we know that for this first transactions, we have 2 accounts. One is capital, account modal, and the other one is cash at bank, tunai di bank. Memulakan perniagaan dengan tunai di bank. So, 2 akaun yang kita buka adalah akaun modal capital dan cash at bank. Asset. So, kita dah tahu. Okay. Dua account tu adalah cash at bank and capital. Okay, saya tulis kat sini Number 1. Okay. So, I am listing down first the two accounts. So, we will have capital and cash at bank. Kenapa capital? Sebab kita memulakan perniagaan. Okay, capital adalah modal. Memulakan perniagaan dengan modal. Why cash at bank? Sebab modal awak datang dalam bentuk cash at bank. Sebab itulah ini adalah dua akaun yang kita analis, yang kita kena pasti, yang perlu kita buka bagi bisnes catatan perniagaan yang pertama. Okay, saya tak jumpa benda ni. Okay, so we have identified the two accounts, which are capital and cash at bank. So now the next step is we need to analyze the movement of this account. So when you start your business, it means that your capital is increased. Capital increase. Kenapa? Ada kosong modal kosong, kita wujudkan perniagaan, maka modal bertambah. So maknanya capital increase. And then the second account is cash at bank. Cash at bank bertambah ke berkurangan? Cash at bank bertambah. Okay, modal datang dalam bentuk cash at bank, tunai di tangan. So, cash at bank bertambah. So, your cash at bank increase. Okay, banyak kali pembetulan Okay, so both capital account and cash at bank increase. So now we have identified the movement of our two accounts that we have already opened earlier. Now the third step is for you to apply this double entry system into your entries. So it said here that your capital increase. Cari mana capital? Ini dia capital. Capital increase credit. Jadi bahagian account ni kredit adalah capital. Kemudian cash at bank. Cash at bank adalah asset. Asset apa? Increase kan? Asset increase debit. Jadi awak akan debitkan cash at bank. Sebab cash at bank adalah asset. Asset awak increase. So awak kena debitkan cash at bank. Okay? So ini adalah step dalam kita mengenal pasti apakah dia dua akaun yang kita kena buka, dual effect. Okay? Kemudian cara untuk kita kena pasti status sama ada bertambah ataupun berkurangan. Kemudian kita applykan dengan double entry system, kita akan kena pasti kedudukan akaun itu sama ada kita kena debitkan ataupun kena kreditkan. Okay, so this is our first discussion on how should we apply those 3 steps in accounting entries. Okay, dah azan maghrib dah, tak apa. Okay, next is for our second sections, let's discuss this. Started business with balances in cash in hand and furniture. Memulakan perniagaan dengan tunai di tangan dan juga perabot. So the keywords here is balances. Okay, so again, started business with balances. So we have two accounts here. Your accounts with balances are cash in hand and furniture. Jadi kita tulis siap-siap. Kita ada account cash in hand dan kita ada account furniture. Okay, yang ni agak istimewa sikit sebab kita ada lebih daripada 2 account. Sebab akaun yang ketiga akan melibatkan capital. Kenapa? Sebab kita telah pun memulakan perniagaan dengan akaun-akaun yang berbaki. So this is the meaning of our second transaction. So this is why you should have capital account in the second transaction. Okay, now so we have identified our 3 accounts for our second transaction. Now the next step is for us to identify the movements of our accounts. So what happened to cash in hand is we have it increase. It is already there in your account. It is already there in your business. So your cash in hand remain unmoved, tak bertambah atau berkurangan. So maknanya kat sini bila awak memulakan perniagaan pada bulan yang baru, so this is what it meant, okay? Dengan baki-baki, maknanya sebagai contoh pada bulan Februari awak telah memulakan balik catatan akaun awak dengan 2 akaun yang berbaki yang dibawa daripada bulan sebelumnya. Jadi 2 akaun tersebut adalah cash in hand dan furniture, tunai di tangan dan perabot. Jadi bila awak nak rekodkan catatan pada bulan Februari daripada baki-baki tersebut, maka ia menyebabkan cash in hand awak bertambah, increase. Same goes to your furniture increase. And same goes to your capital increase. Okay, so now we have these 3 accounts in our second transactions. So the next step is to apply the double entry system. So we know that cash in hand is our asset, furniture is our asset, and capital is our equity. So your cash in hand increase. Okay, asset increase. So we should debit the cash in hand. Cash in hand debit. And then we also have another asset account which is furniture that is increase. Furniture is asset, asset increase. So debit. So kita debitkan furniture. And at the same time, we have capital increase. So capital is here. Capital increase. So kita kreditkan. So same principles goes to the balances of our transactions. So let's do this quick. Gave loan to Kumar. So this is our third transaction. Third transaction. Memberikan pinjaman kepada Kumar. Siapakah Kumar kepada kita? Kumar adalah kita punya penghutang ataupun debtors nama-lamanya, ataupun istilah yang terkini adalah accounts receivable. Receivable adalah istilah perakaunan yang terkini bagi memberikan maksud penghutang, orang yang berhutang dengan kita. Istilah yang lama adalah debtors. Istilah baru adalah account receivable. So apa yang berlaku adalah awak telah memberikan pinjaman kepada Kumar, okay, bagi jumlah sekian. Okay. Jadi apa yang berlaku adalah memberikan pinjaman kepada Kumar. Okay. Katakanlah ni ayat ni tergantung. Okay. Katakanlah jumlah pinjaman tu adalah dalam bentuk wang. Okay. Saya tambahkan perkataan kat sini. Gave loan to Kumar by cash. Okay. Worth RM10,000. Okay. Ni baru betul ayat dia. Memberikan pinjaman kepada Kumar secara tunai sebanyak RM10,000. Okey. Sekarang kita kena pasti apakah dia dua akaun yang kita kena buka. Jadi akaun yang kita kena buka adalah akaun Kumar. Dan lagi satu akaun adalah berikan pinjaman kepada Kumar secara tunai kan? By cash. Jadi kita kena buka akaun cash in hand. If you have a statement using the words cash, cash means cash in hand. If you have a statement using the words check, check means it is your cash at bank. So in this case, we are opening a cash in hand because the wordings in the transaction is cash. Okay. So what happened to Kumar is, Kumar account is increased. Sebelum ni Kumar tidak berhutang dengan kita. Sekarang bila dia berhutang dengan kita, maka akaun Kumar bertambah. Siapakah Kumar? Kumar adalah penghutang, orang yang berhutang dengan kita. Okay? Sebelum ni tak berhutang, sekarang berhutang. So Kumar bertambah. Cash in hand adalah bentuk pinjaman yang kita berikan kepada Kumar. Cash in hand adalah aset kita. So bila kita memberikan pinjaman kepada Kumar dalam bentuk tunai, maka tunai di tangan kita berkurangan. So cash in hand decrease. Berkurangan. Okay, so kita dah kena pasti dua akaun kita, which are Kumar account and cash in hand account. So kita tengok kat sini, Kumar increase. Kumar adalah account receivable adalah asset. Asset increase kita debitkan. Jadi kita debitkan account Kumar. And then at the same time, we have cash in hand decrease. Cash in hand is also our asset. Asset decrease, kita kreditkan. Jadi kita kreditkan apa? Kita kreditkan account cash in hand. Cash in hand. Okay. So saya rasa awak dah mula boleh ikut kita punya tempo. Kita punya rentak bagaimana cara ni kita buat transaksi. Okay. Now untuk nombor 4, saya betulkan sikit ayat dia. Receive loan, let's say, by check. Nombor in check. Menerima tunai dalam bentuk cek daripada Ismail. So in this case, kita telah berhutang dengan Ismail. Daripada Ismail, Ismail adalah pemiutang kita, di mana kita telah berhutang dengan Ismail. Jadi Ismail dalam istilah perekonomian kita ni, beliau adalah accounts payable. Payable adalah creditors. Creditors adalah pemiutang. Maknanya kita telah berhutang dengan Ismail. Jadi siapakah Ismail? So Ismail is our liability, our current liability. Okay, liability semasa. So awak telah terima loan dalam bentuk cek. Okay. So kita tulis dulu nama Ismail. Dalam bentuk cek, so duit awak dalam tunai ke dalam bank yang bertambah? Duit dalam bank bertambah sebab kita terima cek. Jadi kita akan buka akaun cash at bank. Okey, sekarang kita nak tahu kita punya movement. So what happened between us and Ismail is we have made a new loan with Ismail. So Ismail is our liability. So before that we don't have any loan with Ismail. So due to the fraud transactions, our loan has increased. Hutang kita bertambah. So Ismail increased. 0 to something. Daripada tidak berhutang kepada berhutang. So Ismail increased. And then you receive your loan in form of check. So awak terima duit. You receive your money. The money is received via check. So this will increase your cash at bank. because you receive the loan by check. So this will increase the amount of money that you had in your account. So your cash at bank increase. Okay. So now Ismail, we know that Ismail is our liability. Okay, sebab kita berhutang dengan Ismail. So liability is here. So Ismail increase, liability increase. So we should credit the Ismail account. So credit Ismail. And then your cash at bank increase sebab duit awak bertambah dalam bank. Asset increase, debit. So bank. So dapat tak debit dan kredit sini? Dapat kan? Asset increase, debit. So debit. Kemudian liability increase, credit. So this is the dual effect, the double entry system. One account debit, another account credit. How do we get this? By using these rules of double entry system. Okay, now let's proceed to the fourth transactions. The fifth transaction, which is paid salary by check. Membayar gaji menggunakan check. Okay. So what happened in number 5 is your salary increase. So salary is one form of your expenses. Okay, ini adalah perbelanjaan awak sebab awak mengeluarkan duit untuk melakukan aktiviti tersebut. Okay, ia adalah expenses. And then, how do you make that salary? How do you make that payment? So, you make that payment via check. So, check is something to do with your cash at bank. Okay. Now, let's look at the movement, at the status. Your salary increase because of activities of making the payments of salary, membayar gaji. So gaji awak, bukan gaji awak bertambah, perbelanjaan awak bertambah. Salary is expenses. And then you make the payment via check. Jadi duit awak dalam bank berkurangan. Okay. Because the payment has deducted, mengurangkan, deducted the amount of cash you have in your account. So cash at bank decrease. Okay, now let's apply the double entry system. So what should we do if our salary increase? So salary is under the category of expenses. Expenses increase, debit. So debit, salary. And then we have cash at bank decrease. Cash at bank is asset. Asset decrease, credit. So credit, cash at bank. As simple as that. Okay. And last is when you receive cash from debtors. Kenapa kita terima tunai daripada penghutang? Debtors adalah nama lama untuk account receivable. What makes us to receive cash from our debtors? Kenapa? Oh, debtors ni bayar hutang. Sebab itulah kita terima tunai. Ini maksud catatan nombor 6, transaksi nombor 6. So if you receive cash from debtors, it means that your debtors, your account receivable has come to you and make payment for his or her debt. So this is why you receive cash from him or from her. Okay. Now let's identify the two accounts. Okay. So when you receive cash, it means that it has something to do with your cash in hand. The other account is accounts receivable. So there is no name here. So let's say we create new name here. Nama siapa saya nak tulis? Okay. Fazal Tahir. Fazal Tahir. Okay. So siapakah Fazal Tahir? Fazal Tahir adalah kita punya penghutang, account receivable. So kita buka account Fazal Tahir. Kalau namanya adalah solos, tulis nama solos. Jangan tulis nama orang lain. Okay. So, sekarang kita dah ada fazal tahir dan kita ada cash in hand. Sekarang kita kena tentukan movementnya. So, when you receive cash from fazal tahir, so it means that your cash in hand increase. Terima duit daripada fazal tahir kan? So, duit awak bertambah lah. Kemudian, fazal tahir sebelum ni adalah account receivable kita. Penghutang kita. Jadi bila dia membayar hutang pada kita, maka hutang dia berkurangan. Okay. So fazal tahir decrease. Decrease sebab hutang dia berkurangan. Fazal tahir sebelum ni adalah penghutang kita, account receivable. So bila dia bayar hutang pada kita, maka hutangnya berkurangan. Sebab itulah kita tulis kat situ, fazal tahir decrease. Siapakah fazal tahir? Account receivable. Account receivable tu apa? Account receivable adalah kita punya non-current asset ke current asset? Current asset. Okay, very good. Okay, so now let's do the entries. So we have cash in hand. Cash in hand increase. So cash in hand is our asset. Asset increase. So we should debit them. Cash in hand. Cash in hand. And then at the same time, we have another asset decrease. Okay, account receivable asset kan? Okay, so asset decrease. Decrease kita kena kreditkan. So kita kredit siapa? Kita kredit. Okay, so those are the rules of double entry system that we have applied under our first exercise. Mudah, as simple as that. Okay, so I believe that you can see here our second exercise. Why don't you complete this exercise? Boleh salin dia punya soalan. Yang ni saya punya error. Saya termasuk pula kat sini. Okay, bahagian ni error saya. Okay. So why don't you use this exercise to apply back what we have already discussed in our first exercise and complete the table. But before that, I think I need to correct this statement. Okay, this is commission. Okay, betul. Alright. Okay. Alright. So semua dah betul. Okay. So I'm giving you this task. I need you to use this exercise and then identify the 2 or more accounts. I don't know. Okay, the 2 or more accounts that you need to open for each one of these business transactions, and then do your entry based on this double entry system. Okay, so we are going to discuss this answer once you have come back from your long holiday. I might need to give you more exercises. I might need to do more discussion on our later part of the chapter, which is journal entries, which I might share this via our next video record. For the time being, so this is our question. This is the question that you need to settle, that you need to tackle, that you need to answer. And I'm going to go back to you in some other days later. Okay, I will let you know later lah. So that's it for our session for now. Thank you for your time. And please keep safe. Jangan kuat sangat merayau kat luar. And I'm looking forward to have you back to Polytechnic Mkomo in few days time. Okay, Assalamualaikum dan selamat malam. Dah pukul 7.34 malam. Saya seorang-seorang dekat office. Okay, Assalamualaikum.